It used to be simple: you bought a thing, and then you owned the thing. Now the thing often wants your card every month, and sometimes it never really leaves your budget. Software, streaming, food delivery, fitness apps, cloud storage, cars, security systems, even basic features. Everything seems to want a subscription now. This is not an accident. It is one of the biggest business shifts of modern consumer life, and it changed how companies think about every customer. Companies discovered that ownership is nice, but recurring revenue is beautiful. For the customer, subscriptions can feel convenient. For the business, they feel like a financial machine because the sale does not end when you click buy. That is the story of the subscription economy: convenience on the surface, capture underneath. This video is not about saying every subscription is bad. Some are genuinely useful. The problem starts when normal life becomes a stack of small recurring claims on your future income. The charges are small, but the capture is permanent. One subscription feels harmless. 10 subscriptions feel like modern life. 20 start to feel like rent for everything. And that is the point. The subscription model wins because each individual charge feels too small to fight, too annoying to cancel, and too normal to question. A single $10 payment does not scare people, but 10 separate $10 payments can quietly become a financial leak. Subscriptions are powerful because they turn big decisions into tiny decisions. Instead of asking, "Do I really want to own this?" the question becomes, "Can I tolerate this monthly price?" That is a much easier question to answer yes to. That shift changes psychology. It lowers the emotional weight of spending. A product that might feel expensive at $300 can feel strangely reasonable at $12.99 a month. The math may not be better. It is just easier to swallow. That is why subscriptions are everywhere. They convert resistance into habit. Once a product becomes part of the routine, canceling it starts to feel like creating work. Once the payment is automatic, the decision disappears into the background. And background payments are dangerous because they do not feel like spending. They feel like weather. Always there, mildly annoying but somehow normal. This is the first real cost of the subscription economy. Spending becomes less visible. The money leaves quietly, and quiet spending is the easiest kind to underestimate. Companies know this. The best subscription is not the one you love most. It is the one you stop noticing and keep paying anyway. That sounds harsh, but it is the logic of retention. In a subscription business, keeping you is often more valuable than impressing you once. The whole model rewards retention, habit, and a little bit of consumer forgetfulness. That is why so many services focus on reducing cancellation, increasing engagement, and making the product feel woven into your routine. The product becomes less like an item and more like infrastructure. And once something feels like infrastructure, people become more reluctant to remove it. Streaming changed entertainment this way. At first, streaming felt like freedom from cable. Then the subscriptions multiplied until freedom started looking familiar again, just with better apps and more passwords. The funny part is that people escaped one bundle and slowly rebuilt another one app by app. Food delivery did something similar to convenience. It did not just sell food, it sold the feeling of skipping effort, skipping dishes, and skipping the small, tired tasks that come after a long day. That feeling is valuable, especially when people are busy and exhausted. But convenience has a habit of becoming a budget category. What begins as an occasional rescue can slowly become a regular line item. Fitness apps, meal kits, productivity tools, meditation apps, cloud storage. Each one can be reasonable alone. Together, they start to form a private tax on modern life, not because any one service is evil, but because all of them arrive at once. And unlike taxes, nobody voted on them. You clicked Start Free Trial, forgot the renewal date, and accidentally created a tiny private tax. Free trials are one of the most elegant traps in the whole system. The word free gets you in the door. The calendar gets you later. The business is betting that future. You will be busier, lazier, more distracted, or more embarrassed to cancel. Future you is the customer they are really pricing. And honestly, the business is often right. This is not because people are stupid. It is because attention is limited. Modern life already demands too much tracking. Subscriptions exploit that tracking burden by turning attention into a scarce household resource. That brings us to the second cost: admin work. A subscription is not only a payment, it is something you have to monitor, evaluate, remember, update, renew, and sometimes escape. You need passwords, renewal dates, app stores, account pages, hidden menus, customer support chats, and confirmation emails. The product may be digital, but the management burden is very real. This is why cancellation friction matters. If signing up takes one click, but canceling takes 20 minutes, that is not convenience. That is design with a motive, dressed up as customer experience. The FTC's click-to-cancel push existed because regulators saw how negative option billing and automatic renewals could trap consumers. The controversy around that rule shows how valuable cancellation friction can be. Even when rules change or get challenged, the underlying problem does not disappear. A business model built on forgotten payments will always resist easy exits. This is where the subscription economy becomes a status system too, because the same monthly model feels very different depending on how much slack you have. People with money can absorb subscription clutter more easily. They can pay for premium versions, ad-free versions, faster support, and better access. People with less margin feel every recurring charge more sharply. A forgotten subscription is an annoyance for one person and an overdraft risk for another. Same charge, completely different emotional meaning. That is the class divide hiding inside a small monthly bill. The rich buy frictionless access. Everyone else negotiates with their bank account, their calendar, and sometimes their overdraft limit. And the middle class gets squeezed in a very specific way. They are not too poor to subscribe, but not wealthy enough to stop caring. So they end up paying for a lifestyle that feels normal from the outside and crowded from the inside. The home looks modern, but the bank account feels crowded. This connects to a bigger shift. Ownership is being replaced by access. You do not own the movie, you access the platform. You do not own the software, you rent the license. You do not always own the feature. Sometimes the feature lives behind a subscription tier, even when the hardware is already sitting in your house or car. This is why the phrase, "you will own nothing," became popular. The phrase is dramatic, but the feeling behind it is real. People sense that more of life is becoming conditional. You are not always buying the thing, you are buying permission to keep using it. Stop paying, and the access disappears. That can be fine for entertainment. It feels different when the model touches work tools, transportation, storage, security, or basic convenience. The closer it gets to necessity, the more serious it becomes. The more essential the subscription, the more power the provider has. That is why subscriptions are not just a pricing model. They are control systems, because access can be granted, upgraded, downgraded, or removed. They control access, behavior, upgrades, cancellation, data, and sometimes even the version of the product you are allowed to experience. From the company side, this is beautiful. Predictable revenue is easier to plan, sell, and value. Investors often love subscription companies because recurring revenue looks stable. A customer who keeps paying is easier to value than a customer who might buy once. The company stops chasing one sale and starts managing a relationship that charges every month. That can improve products. Let's be fair about that. A good subscription can fund updates, maintenance, cloud costs, support, and ongoing innovation. That is the best version of the model, and it does exist. There are real cases where renting access makes more sense than buying ownership. You may not need to own every tool, movie, song, or piece of software forever. Temporary access can be rational when the use is temporary too. The problem is not subscriptions existing. The problem is subscription creep, when the model expands from useful services into everything that used to be simple ownership. Subscription creep is when reasonable services quietly become a permanent claim on your income. You do not feel one big decision. You feel 100 small defaults, and defaults are where consumer behavior gets quietly steered. And defaults are powerful because they ask nothing from you. The system keeps charging unless you actively interrupt it. That reverses the burden. You must spend effort to stop spending money. That is a strange bargain when the original sign-up took seconds. This is one reason subscription fatigue is growing. People are not only tired of paying, they are tired of managing the payment universe. Every subscription asks for a little memory, a little attention, and a little trust. Multiply that across modern life, and the monthly budget starts looking like a crowded airport departure board. Everything is leaving soon, and somehow, everything is delayed. So, what should people actually do? First, stop evaluating subscriptions one by one. Evaluate the stack, because the stack is what actually hits your bank account. The question is not, is this one worth $10? The question is, what is the total monthly claim on my future income? Second, separate tools from treats. A tool saves time, earns money, protects something important, or clearly improves your life. If it does none of those things, it is probably just a comfortable leak. A treat is fine too, but it should be honest. Entertainment is not emergency infrastructure. Third, audit renewals on a calendar, not on vibes. Once a month or once a quarter, look at the full list and cancel what you would not choose again today. That question is powerful. Would I subscribe again today? Not last year, not during the free trial, not as your imaginary future self today. If the answer is no, the subscription is probably surviving on inertia. Fourth, beware of annual plans that feel cheaper but lock you into something you barely use. Annual pricing can be smart for services you truly use. It is expensive for fantasies about who you plan to become, like the future self who definitely uses that app every day. Fifth, watch bundles carefully. Bundles can save money, but they also hide waste by making unused services feel included. The best subscription strategy is not minimalism for its own sake. The goal is not to cancel your life. The goal is to stop renting habits you no longer value. It is intentionality. Pay for what earns its place. Remove what only survives because you forgot. The deeper lesson is simple. Recurring payments are future decisions made in advance. They spend tomorrow's attention before tomorrow arrives. Every subscription you keep is a tiny promise that future you will still want this. Sometimes that promise is worth it. Sometimes it is just the company borrowing your forgetfulness. That is why everything has a subscription now. Because predictable money is valuable, consumer attention is limited, and ownership is harder to monetize after the sale. The subscription economy is not just about convenience. It is about who owns the relationship after the sale and whether you ever really leave the store. And once you see that, you stop asking only what the subscription costs. You start asking what part of your life it keeps renting and whether that rent is still worth paying.